Today's guest is the founder of Transgender Talent. Ann Thomas started this agency because she saw the absence and the need for a safe space for transgender and non-binary actors to be represented, to be taken care of, to create a world where casting directors would know how to interact with them, and has been at the forefront of making change in this part of the industry. She is behind the changes to Actors Access, where they have the little check boxes where you declare if you're transgender or non-binary. She's also someone who I can see is passionate about making more representation in our world. Her company not only represents actors, it also represents musicians. And through this conversation, what I think you'll hear is both her passion for transgender actors and non-binary actors and getting them out there and the safety that she wants to create for them, and also some of the worries that I think she has for when her actors go out into the world. But you're also going to hear the same kind of things that you need to be hearing from any manager or agent. So no matter how you identify, you're going to hear some news today that's going to help you as you relate to this business. And I think for me, I think for some of the listeners here, it also will help us to identify how to be better allies in this journey. So I am so excited to introduce you to Ann Thomas. Quick trigger warning, Ann gets really honest with me in this conversation, and we do discuss topics that could be challenging to some listeners, including sexual assault. Please make a conscious decision when you decide to listen. Well, hello, Ann. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I'm glad you're here. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
Really, I'm so glad. So I have a million questions, but first, it's the day after the Oscars. Let's just talk. Did you watch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And was there anything that surprised you, that you were delighted by, that you were pissed off by?
Yeah, I couldn't get it tuned in until about 45 minutes into it.
Oh!
Even though I started 2 hours in advance, I was running into technical problems because I literally don't watch TV and movies. And so all my equipment is like mothballs. So I had to haul it all back out, set it up, and it didn't work for a while. Finally got it going. So, yeah, I watched it, and I actually had a lot of interesting reasons to watch it because I'm working on producing a show right now, and I needed to get ideas.
Oh, really? Did you get any?
Tons of them.
Also, I want to, it's when you talked about the TV and the mothballs, I was like, who watches normal TV anymore? How do I even get on normal TV? I feel like I watch TV on my computer, or I watch Netflix on Apple TV. I'm like, how do I get my normal TV? I have to figure it out. And I was like, look at this. It's like ancient history or something. It's wild.
I know.
Yeah.
The rabbit ears were not cooperating yesterday.
So, as we're talking about changes in the business, I think it's the perfect way to talk about what it is you do and transgender talent. And so the moment that I found out about your agency, I was like, we need to jump in here, manage a company. I jumped right in here and I said, we need to talk to Ann and find out all about this, when you started it, why there's the need for it in the business. And because my listeners are a ton of actors and actor adjacent professions, I would say, I know that they're interested in knowing what it is that your agency, it's a management company though, not an agency. I should quit saying agency, but I'm so used to saying it, but I swear I'm going to say management company. So what your management company, what it stands for, and why you saw the need for this particular space to be occupied with the transgender talent. Can you talk us through some of that?
I was actually asked to start this company. And because we were on, a bunch of us were on Glee, and to do that final scene it was not the final scene, it was the scene in the last season of the show, episode 607, where Coach Beast comes out as trans. And there was that massive choir of 197 trans people. That's how many were actually there. The lines on the show, someone said 300, and that was, when I heard him saying that, I went, yeah, right. Try and make us look like that we're 200, not even quite. So, what happened was I ended up getting in touch with the casting director, Sandy Alisi, who basically said, we had a hell of a time tracking you all down from all over the United States. There was people there from every corner of the U.S. that had to fly in for that scene. And they called like all the LGBT centers all over the place and so on. And most of the people weren't professional actors. They weren't, some of them had stage experience. Some were professional singers, things like that. I mean, it was a mishmash. And so they said, make it easier for us. We'd love it if you could help create a way that we could find you people easier. And so that's when I birthed the idea of Transgender Talent, was through that. And we originally started with some of the people from that choir.
Wow. Wow. And so when you were first starting, I'm curious about that moment. Like, we really need a way to find you. Did that feel exciting, or did it feel like, what are you talking about? We've been here all along. Where are you? Like, what, you're not looking in the right place. Like, was it totally inspiring? Were you a little bit pissed off? I got pissed off when you said that. When I heard that at first, I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, your reaction seems very positive and like, okay, let's run with it. But I want to check in on that.
Well, after I shot that, after I was on the thing, I started like right away the next week looking for an agent, because I thought, well, that'd be the best way to get in, is to see if I can find an agent or an agency that reps trans people. And because I'd been in theater as a technical director for like 25 years. And so but I wasn't from LA. And so I had moved here. I tried to get acting gigs when I first got here, and being a technical director was not good enough to qualify to be an actor. And so there was only like, I don't know, a dozen or 20, 25 full-time trans, or not full-time, but trans actors that were professional in Hollywood for like 20 years before that. Mm-hmm. And so what they wanted was somebody who actually had real training. And so I started, when they said they couldn't find us, I thought, oh, well, I'll look for an agency. I started looking and I couldn't find any. There was one that called itself an LGBT or gay agency or something like that years earlier that I found evidence of on the internet, but they had not been in business for years. It wasn't until later on that I found out there was an agency for a while that did that, and it was Dragon Talent, and they represented at that time what they called transsexuals, and other people that were different. And so, but I couldn't find where they went to after that. And so that's when I realized, there's a huge gaping need here. There's no place for them to go, and no place for the trans people to go and feel safe at. And so that's why I started the company.
I love that. I love that. And when you say to feel safe at, can you help our listeners and the rest of us understand when you say that, what that means? Because I had an experience recently with a client, and I would love for you to just illuminate what kind of safety is so important and where we're creating this, how we can help as well. Okay.
So probably the number one things we run into with agents, and not so much with managers, because not that many managers manage trans people. But as far as the agents are concerned still, is they don't understand the terminology. They don't understand what our limits are. They don't understand a whole lot of the differences between a transgender person and a cisgender person, because they think, when an agent is really pretty daft, not informed, which plenty of them are like that, they will look at a casting call that comes out on breakdown services, for example, and they'll see that it says transgender in it, and they'll just go through and Breakdown Express and just click, checkbox to submit everybody on their roster that's transgender. That's kind of stupid. That's like really stupid, because some transgender people were assigned female at birth, others were assigned male at birth, and the kind of energy that comes from those people is entirely different. Regardless of the transition they've gone through, they're very, very different because of how they were raised. And so you can't expect a trans man to play a trans woman role, and vice versa. And then when you have non-binary thrown into the mix, it makes it even more fun. And so it gets really, really complicated. And if an agent can't figure that out and wrap their heads around it, the actor is in a lot of trouble, because it causes a lot of tension between the agent and the actor, because the actor will come back and say, wait a minute, I'm not doing a trans woman role, I'm a trans man, or I'm not going to do a trans man role, I'm a trans woman, and I won't go back to that old gender.
Right.
There's stuff like that. And then some actors don't mind portraying anything as far as anywhere on the gender spectrum. Other ones are really confined in it. And so you have to know all those differences. Then throw pronouns in on it too. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it gets crazy. especially
Yeah.
when people have unusual pronouns, which we tend to not try and track all those because it's hard.
Sure, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. But I
You
also
know,
see how
we
you're saying the actor who is submitted for a job that's not right for them could end up in a very uncomfortable, incredibly uncomfortable position. And I've even had some of my actors who have gone to meetings with agents or managers and have had the experience of agents and managers asking completely inappropriate questions about where they're at in their transition or body parts or any of the stuff that is not. And I can see that that's the safety that your agency, I'm sorry, your company can provide to them. Well, what has it been like to start it? Has it been a hard slog? Has it been exciting? Have you seen some support from the industry? Tell us a little bit about that. Uh-oh, that was a big sigh. I'm nervous for you now. Now I'm worried.
No,
Tell me.
I didn't know. You just told me something I didn't know, and that was that agents and managers other than us are asking questions about transition and body parts and all that stuff because that's actually borderline illegal. You're not supposed to be asking questions like that of an employee or somebody that you're managing or somebody that you're repping as an agent. It's against anti-discrimination laws and HIPAA laws and all kinds of stuff. What we tell our people is we need to know this, and that's where this comes into a gray area because you need to know it. Like if you have a trans woman, you actually do need to know as an agent or a manager whether they've had bottom surgery or not, because if they're going to put them in really tight-fitting pants, you're going to see a bulge or not, or you're going to have a lot of taping down done down there. There's all kinds of stuff like that. Or if there's a nude scene, what do you do? I mean, so it kind of falls into a gray area. We ask all of our actors all of those questions, and they feel totally safe explaining to us because we understand the medical stuff very thoroughly. So we ask them where they are in their hormones, what their dosages are, and so on, because those actually impact your performance. All of that stuff does. The surgery, whether it's on top or on bottom for either trans men or trans women, or for non-binary people, because we've run across non-binary people who have the same treatments as trans people, but they don't use the name transgender. They call themselves non-binary. So,
Right.
but we have to keep track of that stuff. And when we get breakdowns that are suspicious to us, we'll call the casting director and ask for clarification. And then we submit only people that have had the medical treatments that match the breakdown. And we don't tell the casting director what those are. We just simply say, just audition the folks I send you, okay?
Right. And what you're saying there, and I want to apologize also for any clumsiness of me even talking about this because I'm also aware of that, right? And I appreciate your openness around this. And the thing that I just heard you say that I thought was so important is you create a safe space where they can talk about it with you because they know that your best interests are at heart, where I could see a situation where an actor might be like, is this person just curious? And that's not okay to be asking these questions. Like that's not your business. Right. And it's so, and I appreciate what you're saying, that this is like the way the space that you're creating is around, we are creating a safe space to understand this so that we can submit you in the right way and protect you and take care of you. So I can see why there was such a need you were seeing beyond this casting director saying, hey, it was hard to find you. It was also a need like on this other end, which must feel in some level very in service to the community that you're a part of, I would imagine.
Yeah, but also please don't feel embarrassed about asking me anything. I have super, super thick skin. I've been doing this 8 years. I've been teaching at universities and colleges for like 10 or 12 years on stuff like this. So it's like I've been grilled by faculty, by students, and asked all kinds of embarrassing questions in front of a large audience. I don't care.
Well, and I appreciate you giving me that long leash to be able to get it wrong today. I appreciate that. I think that's going to be a benefit to all of our listeners too, to be able to ask the tougher questions here to get some more understanding. So so since you've started, and how long has it been in business now?
8 years.
8 years, right. And so how's it going? How's it going over at Transgender Talent?
Okay, so I know this podcast is going to be sitting on the web for infinity. And so right now we're experiencing a really huge downturn in the economy. And that's impacted all actors, and it's impacted all the budgets on all the films and other projects being done. I mean, shoot, they just put out an announcement today about not yet another bank failure, and this one hitting here in Hollywood. So it's slowing down for us too, just like it is for all other actors. And the budgets are getting smaller, so the offers are coming in lower, and so on. I mean, what do you do? You know, and so what we're trying to do at this point is we're diversifying even further. We've already had a production division running for 5 years, and we just haven't ever announced it. We haven't ever. I mean, it was kind of announced. There was an article in Spectrum News on us about that part of us 2 years ago, but we really didn't push it out there. We don't have a website about it because we're getting inundated, to be honest with you, with stuff, and from major folks in Hollywood, as well as transgender writers going, hey, I've got something. Yeah, I've had to learn how to do pitches. I already have a very full plate. And so there's almost no point in advertising at this point. But what I'm trying to do is create opportunities for all of our actors through that, which is what a lot of management companies do. Many of them have production divisions. And so that's what they do, is they create the projects to put their own people into, even though they're not allowed to double dip, just like I'm not. So if I'm an EP or a producer, I don't take a producer's fee. I can't take a commission on my actor, which is fine. Yeah. You know, I'd rather give them the extra boost anyway. I mean, it's more money in their pocket if I produce it and stick them in it. So we have like one major motion picture we're working on where we're going to have every single client I have in it, even if they can't act. I don't care, because we also have musicians.
Right. You know? Yes, I have a music division as well. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll just throw everybody, you know, and we'll have a big scene with everybody in it. And, you know, so all the people who can't act get to be background, and all the people who can act will have lines, you know, things like that, you know. Right. And so that kind of works when you're an EP on a project, and it's like, oh yeah, guess what I'm doing, everybody, you know. So, you know, then we have another one where we're having a huge number of people. There are far more than what I have as clients, and we're going to be that's kind of why I was looking at the Oscars to get ideas. I can't hint too much about it, but we're this close to announcing it. Yeah, and so that's what we're trying to do, is bring in projects that would pay our people and get them out there. You know, as you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I hear over here is somebody who's working really, really hard for their clients in all the ways that you possibly can. And that's what I think is, to anyone listening, is like, this is the kind of manager anybody dreams of, and that you work with a population that is underrepresented. It even makes it more, I think, in some ways, of course, admirable, but I think also makes us, like, the need for it seems very obvious. So a question for you is, I know you represent transgender actors and non-binary actors. Do you represent any non-qualifying of those two identifications, or no?
Not under the banner of Transgender Talent, because then, you know, you sign up with this company, you're outing yourself. That's one of the things that I tell. We get people writing into us every week, and some of them come through, and we look at all their information, and they don't look transgender to us. So we're like, do you realize if you sign with us, you're outing yourself for life? And then the ones that are just trying to get in with us that are not trans or non-binary, they go away, because they don't, you know, because they didn't think that far. Now, to be honest with you, yes, I do have. I don't have currently anybody on the roster like that, but it's not our main roster. It's not under this banner. It's under a different one that I have. Okay. And I only will do it for people who are of name, who've got really, really good credentials, and they've already, you know, there's got to be some really big incentive for me to do it.
Obviously, you can't represent every transgender actor in the world. So what advice would you give them when they are looking for representation? What are some red flags or maybe some green flags to help them?
Oh boy.
We have all day.
That's another problem. Okay. So green flags is that they're actually really paying attention and they understand you. And I talked about that earlier, about the kinds of roles you want and what you don't want, and make sure they really understand that. Then the next thing is, now what you found in talking to people about agents and managers over the years is, I'm sure that you've seen that people that are agents and managers want a package. So you get that package honed. They tell you what to change. So you have a particular look and a particular way, energy about you and all this stuff. And then that's what they go out and pitch. And I get that. But we're transgender people. We're nonconformists. You don't tell a nonconformist to conform. So we've run into a lot of friction with especially the old school Hollywood people. Basically your boomer types, they want everything a certain way, and they think that you only succeed a certain way. And I mean, even back in decades ago, Queen had a song about that where it's, what was that one called? Anyway, it was like, you don't want, there were tears on the inside, but you had the smile on the outside, and that's what boomers expect. And some people who are younger, of course, also buy into that. So if you're a trans or non-binary person, I don't even know how non-binary people could be that way, but if you've got a trans person, if you're not willing to totally conform to what image they give you to do, whether they want to change your appearance through stylists or they want to change the way you're presenting yourself in social media, look out. You've got to be ready to accept that if you want to go with them. Otherwise, don't go with them. Because, I mean, TikTok is growing on authenticity of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, where they're getting on there and they're talking about all the stuff that pisses them off and all the heartache they've gone through. And they're trying to express their genuine feelings. So if you have a team that you're building and they're trying to change you and not let you express yourself, run.
Yeah.
Run like hell. I don't care if they are the top name in the industry, because you're going to push yourself. They're going to push you so hard they're going to want to blow your brains out with a 45. I mean, it's that bad. The depression that I've had to deal with amongst some of my folks who have signed with agents like that is sick. Once I've really gotten down to it. And so I don't want any of my actors in with agents who want to force an actor to conform to a certain image or a certain type of message. The authenticity is so important to us as trans people and to younger generations that we have to follow that. So when you have young people coming into Hollywood, 18-year-olds and stuff, they need to listen to this advice too. Be careful. Be really, really, really careful, because these old folks are going to try and tell you what worked for them. But look what happened. The millennials and so on, they bought that, and now they're in deep debt from all their school debt and stuff like that. And they can't even buy a house. I mean, so that's what has completely devalued the advice of the boomers, and they don't get it. A lot of them don't. I do. I'm a boomer, and I get it.
Right.
But it's taken a long road to get there, because I'm trans, and I had to realize that if I wanted to live my life and not live someone else's dream for me,
right,
I had to express my feelings authentically.
Yeah. So I hear
that's
that.
what I see Gen Z and Gen Alpha doing.
Yeah. And I love it. So what I hear you saying is like it's the green and the red flag. And the green flag is when you see the agent or the manager you meet with, it is like, I love everything that you're putting out into the world. I embrace your authenticity, or like, I want you to stay who you are. Like, of course, all your headshots don't look the same. You're not we can't say your exact type of all of these things, like that is, but, and it's so counterintuitive to so much of what's been told, because show us exactly the types that you have in your headshots and da. And by what you're saying is we have to throw that paradigm out. It's not going to serve you. But I mean, we also want to admit that there are probably transgender talent and non-binary talent. They're like, and I, like you said, I love to work in the binary. I like to work within the binary, like you said. Like, I like to work within this kind of genre, and like I only want to play a woman, like you said when you were talking about some actresses, some of the actors that you talked to in that way. So I can imagine, this is why you want an agent who is invested, or manager is invested in understanding this.
Because there's a wide range of people within the trans and non-binary community. We're a complete cross-section of all of society. So we have conservative, liberal, by U.S. standards, which is different elsewhere in the world.
Right.
We have different religions. We have different education levels. We have different income levels, on and on and on. We're like society all over again within a little tiny fraction of us, and there's only 1% of us in society like that. And yet we're the same. We're just as big of a cross section there as anywhere else in society.
Right.
So,
Right.
what I'm saying about authenticity and stuff may work for a lot of folks, but there's others that go, "I'm trans and I don't believe you, man." Well, fine, we get that.
Got it.
That's fine. Go for it in your own way. If you want to live as a completely binary person and you only want to play that gender, that's fine. I completely respect that. And you'll probably be real successful.
Yeah.
But we also need to make sure that everybody else has their chance of being successful too.
Yeah. Can you tell me any, in terms of, I love the word description you just gave. Can you tell me in terms of any clients you've worked for, any stories that you've heard around actors landing with great reps and what kind of their experience was like, or even when they've landed with you and what they've really valued in what you offer?
Well, I've got some clients who absolutely are totally sold on me and never want to go anywhere else in the rest of their career, and it's good. And then I've got other ones who we got along like vinegar and soda, and we had to part company quick. And that's also gone for agents. I've had to play a lot of, conciliatory work between the agents and the actors. But then I also, I worked for like 25 years as an analyst. And so I figured out where the problem was and what we could do to solve it. And what I did was I could see that a lot of the conflict was coming out of Actors Access not being able to define what you were willing to and not willing to do when you're trans or non-binary. And so, I don't know, it was like a year and a half or so ago, we had a meeting with Gary Marsh and his staff over there at Breakdown Services. And I think they had like 15 or 20 people from their staff on the call and all different departments. And we explained all the conflicts that we were seeing and where they stemmed from. For the longest time, they had just a little checkbox that says trans or non-binary, and you check it. Well, as the roles became more common and they became more refined, that didn't work anymore. And so what we were trying to tell them is that you're creating massive conflict, and we're actually going to have possibilities of actors firing their agents over this. So, which did happen. It actually did happen.
Because they were submitted for the wrong thing and they felt like their agent didn't see them and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. And the agent just wouldn't listen, kept doing it repeatedly. Right. And finally the actor was like, I have had enough of this.
Right.
I'm leaving. Let's go find me another agent. And so, what they did was they changed, they did a rollout over a period of months on it where they started in Actors Access, changing the profiles stuff so that you could define more of your identity, and then you could also define what roles you would play, because there's trans people who will not play non-binary roles. There's others that will. There's non-binary people who won't play trans roles and others that will. It's kind of a mess. And then there's, will somebody, one of my questions during an intake interview is always, will you play a character where the role is partially or fully the gender that you were assigned at birth? Because some people, there's so much trauma associated with that they can't possibly get past that to play the character authentically. So that's why they'll not do roles like that, because it'll trigger a lot of abuse that came from somebody. And so, anyway, we got all those things defined in the profiles on Actors Access, and then,
which is huge. Let's not just run by that. That is huge. And Anne, I want to just congratulate you. I'm a huge Actors Access fan, and I talk about it all the time on this podcast. And to just know that you're such a revolutionary, unfortunate revolutionary, unwanted having to be revolutionary, be like, we need to fix this. I would like to thank you on behalf of my audience for sure, because that's a huge fix that needed to be there for probably quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, we needed it for a while. We were complaining for a while to Gary. Gary became a good friend of ours way back about 6 years ago. Great. Or 7 years ago. Anyway, so he even came and spoke on a panel with me once. That was fun as hell.
Oh, good.
Gary Marsh sitting next to me on a panel.
Yes.
But anyway, what the next step, though, was after it was defined in Actors Access, we had to make it so that the casting directors can search on them. So they had to put up a whole bunch of new search parameters, and they rolled that out, I think, like a month or two after the Actors Access changes. And so then they hit that point. Once they had it across the board done, then they made the formal announcement that I think we all saw like a month ago.
Yeah.
And so that's the process they had to go through, because they needed to be able to allow the casting directors for searching for like assigned female at birth, non-binary, et cetera. And so something like that, so that they could be more precise and get only the folks they really wanted to see.
Yeah.
So, and then specify it in the breakdowns. They've already been, and some of them can specify that, but they were able then to put it into Breakdown Express properly.
Got it.
At that point.
And it's you said that they just made the announcement, because I don't know that I received it, because did the announcement go out just to casting, or did actors get this announcement too?
I have no idea. They sent it to us and sent it out and said, "Hey, send it out to your clients now." I'm like, "Sure."
Okay, great.
I can send you a copy.
We will look at it. We'll make sure we include it in the show notes here today, because I think that's really worth everyone knowing about. And also, I think I'm imagining there are many transgender or non-binary actors out there who don't know this, might not know that the update's actually been made, and it's something they should take some time to take a look at, because they now have more protections and options now that is in that space. So tell me a little bit about what's your day-to-day like, Anne. I know you're producing, you've got a music department, you've got these actors department, you're performing yourself. Share a little bit about what's it like a normal day for Anne for us. Like, there's no such thing as a normal day, Brian. What are you talking about?
It's never a normal day. What my ideal day is to get up at about 3 or 4 in the morning and get started on doing treatments and doing pitch decks and sizzle reels for shows I'm working on. And then
wait, 3 or 4 in the morning, and why 3 or 4 in the morning? Are you a night owl? Are you a morning owl?
I'm not a night owl. I'm a morning person.
Got it. That's what I meant. Yeah.
I'm from the country. The last place I worked before I moved here was a farm, a 1,500 acre farm up in the mountains. And so
getting up early is normal.
Waking up before dawn is normal, and you go out and you go take care of the horses and the chickens and stuff like that. I used to own a farm too myself.
Oh, so got it.
My body actually works the best that way. I go to bed at like 7 or 8 at night. So, I mean, when Jamie Lee Curtis made her statement, "Will you guys like Coldplay? Will you please have matinees?" Yes. I'm like, yes, please. So now they start their shows when I'm asleep. Right. Anyway.
So now your cows and chickens are treatments and pilots and films. Oh my, is what it sounds like. Yes.
I'm going to use that.
Okay.
So I have a lot of stuff in development. I'm trying to work on that, because generally people don't bug me at that time in the morning, because the East Coast people are usually up and at 'em by 6 o'clock our time. But they usually leave me alone because I'm a West Coast person, and I think most West Coast people don't get up till 9.
Yeah. None of them will listen to this podcast.
Are up early.
Yeah. Hopefully, none of them will listen to this podcast. They won't know that this is happening.
Yes. Anyway, I will get up that early and do a couple hours, 3 hours of work on that stuff. Sometimes I go for a walk. Sometimes, whatever, and then I'll get going on whatever falls in the door, which can be incredible. I mean, I'll get casting calls, I'll get problems that I have to deal with, or there's productions in progress and they're like wanting to know stuff, whatever, that I have actors in. It's a free for all of insanity. And so when everybody says, "How are you today? And how's your day going?" I'm like, crazy as normal.
Crazy as normal. Great. And dude, are there any, would you say, as you talk about this, and I don't want to dwell in the problem zone, but are there any problems particular to the talent that you serve that you're seeing come up consistently, either for them on set or in auditions, that we haven't touched on today? Or solutions that you've found that might be helpful for any of our listeners?
Okay. So I think one of the biggest problems is most people don't realize that if they're going to advertise their services, they need to provide the proof that they actually can do it. And so a lot of times the reels suck.
Okay.
You can put all you want on a resume, but hey, we've seen politicians lately that have been lying like crazy on their resumes. So we all know resumes aren't worth anything. What's worth something is a reel, whether it's an acting reel, and there's all different genres you can do of those.
Right.
And do a speed reel, and it shows all the different range of your acting skill. Then do full scenes. We need to have full scenes because that's usually requested when you move up to the next level, next round of casting. Once they get past the initial audition, a lot of times, if it's a bigger role, they'll want to see full scenes that make sense because they want to make sure the actor can carry the full scene.
Right. Yeah.
And so we need to have all of that. We have it personally for us. We provide unlimited space for our clients on Google Drive and with their name attached, and we send that out, the link to that out, so that casting directors, producers, writers, whoever can view all that extra material. So we don't charge you the $20 a minute like they do on Actors Access. You get all this place. You can just send one link out, and they can watch the whole thing all about you. So that's a big problem is we have people coming to us saying, I'm the world's greatest actor. Just come down and watch my show. It's like, you think Hollywood's going to drive down to a nightclub and watch you perform? I don't care how popular that nightclub is.
Yeah.
We're busy.
Yeah.
Send us your footage. So that's the first thing is I don't see adequate stuff provided. And that isn't just for on camera. That's for music. We need to see, like, if you can sing, you got to have different genres. If you've got, if you do voiceover, we need to have there's 3 different kinds of those reels that you do. There's, narrative and, or animation and narration and,
commercial, right?
Yeah, commercial, stuff like that. And so we need to, you need to have adequate stuff for that. And then, you need headshots that are current. So if you're changing your look all the time, get new headshots every freaking time you get your hair colored. If that's what it takes, then do it. It's part of the package deal. If you don't have enough money to get your hair colored, done, your pictures done, and it's okay to go do them against the side of a wall with a friend using a nice iPhone. I mean, it's not that
we won't
bad.
let any of our headshot photographers hear you say that, but I think that if you're the person who is non-conforming in terms of that kind of like, I'm changing my look all the time, then I think we kind of can expect you're going to have maybe a non-conforming headshot. If you're, I would always say it's worth investing. If you're going to have the same haircut for a while, it's probably worth investing in a good one at some point is what I was,
Well, right. And that's the thing is that we do have good headshot photographers we work with, and they are absolutely stellar. I love working with them. I like the work they do. But when you're dealing with people who change their hair color every 3 weeks, gets kind of old because it takes that long just to get the last batch done and back to you.
Yes.
By then it's a whole new color. Oh, it was hot pink that time. It's teal now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you change my hair color to teal in those pictures you just took? I mean,
yeah, right.
It gets a little crazy.
Totally.
And then there's that, and then there's the actors and performers, not just actors, but singers and anything else where they have an ego, and it's like, excuse me, I don't like working with people with egos. They cause disturbances on sets. Because I work as a producer too, and and all that stuff, and so I don't like having people come to me that are full of themselves to the point where it's ridiculous. Everybody has good skills in this industry, and that's what the reel's supposed to demonstrate. If the reel doesn't demonstrate your acting quality, then your attitude isn't going to help.
That's so good. It's so good.
Please check your ego at the door.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I mean, oh shit, I don't know how many. Excuse me.
No, you can say all the words. We say all the words on the show. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to say G-rated. Anyway, so we get people who, oh my gosh, they're like, I'm nominated for this award, and it's like, dude, I know people with armloads of those awards.
Yes.
Please, and they don't act with as much ego as you do.
And what you're saying is it's so, I created this program to help actors get agents, and I interviewed all the managers and agents before I create a bunch of managers and agents before I created it. And the number one thing they all said, and you're saying it right now, is please don't be delusional when you meet with me, because it's not helpful to you and it makes me not want to work for you. Because then I feel like I have to like educate you on your place in the business and be your agent at the same time. And I don't have the time for that, nor do I want to deal with that. And this isn't to say everybody like, it's not great to have confidence or to be certain in your craft. We're talking about ego, which is not the same thing. This is like thinking you're God's gift. And well, let's be truthful. I think everyone is God's gift. But what I mean is thinking you're better than anybody else is not the way to make this happen. And, and one of the things you also said that I think is really powerful is in this business, I think the way that it is now that everybody can put an audition on tape at home and everyone carries a camera around in their pocket, we need evidence. Don't tell me on your resume just that you can do it. It's good that you have a resume. We need you to have one. Sure. Okay. But then show me that you do drama. Show me that you do comedy. Where's the evidence to back up what you say you can do? Because the truth is I'm probably going to give the part to someone who I've got to see them act more than I spent time with their resume, that I saw them do something similar to it. I saw them do the audition. I saw a tape. That's what got them the role. And so I think that's, nice to hear you saying something that we've been saying for a minute over here. So this is really helpful for us. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Just a minute? Is that all?
More than that. So just a couple of questions to kind of round things out here for us. Are there any other resources that you would send a non-binary or transgender actor to if they were looking for something to help them in this industry? Because I don't think you want me to send all of them to you, do you?
Oh, if they're really good, we want to see them. But the thing is, so we've had to slow down on letting people in because when we first started the company, we took anybody in regardless because we didn't know about reels. Right. We didn't worry about resumes 8 years ago. We were just like, hey, anybody want to join us? But now that we've figured it out, it's like we've had people on our roster who've literally landed almost nothing, and we've dropped a lot of them over the years, and then if not all of them, I think now. And what we want is people who actually are really, really good actors. And so if you've got the training, this is the thing. I have a tape on my YouTube channel called Dream versus Passion. And the biggie is if you've got a dream, we all have dreams. Oh, I want to sleep with that star. Yeah. Okay. So how many have has become a passion to the point where they actually do and not, and it's voluntary. I've heard of very, very few stories like that. Like the guy who chased down Agnetha, the blonde chick from ABBA. She had a guy chase her down like that. Yeah, look up the story. It is really touching. This guy fell in love with her, and he actually figured out where she lived, and he moved to her city and started just hanging out in restaurants and bars and places like that till he ran into her one day.
It sounds like stalker, but was it okay?
But he was being nice. Okay. And she liked it, and they ended up getting married.
Oh, it was a good one. Okay, good.
Yeah, but this is Europe. I wouldn't expect that to happen in America.
No, maybe not. Yeah, okay.
They're first of all, they're not as isolated over there, at least back then. This happened in like the 70s or 80s, I think. Right. But you just don't see that, and there's a big difference between passion and just a dream. You dream about it, but a passion, that's what I look for in a resume. Is the passion there? And the passion should be reflected in it in the long list of shows you've been in, the long list of training you've had. Just because you've been in a bunch of shows doesn't tell me crap. I need to know, where have you gone for training? What have you done? And is it consistent year to year? Now, realizing gaps happen, especially COVID. Everybody had a gap. So, that's what I look for, is a passion that they just won't let go. They want to keep, it's their dream to fulfill it, and it becomes a passion at that point. Their life becomes to where they're revolving around it. They're not, God, we've had people come to us, well, I have a degree in like physics, and I'm like 60 years old. I've always dreamed of being an actor. Okay.
Have you taken a class
how many acting classes have you taken? 0?
Got it.
Okay, that's a dream, not a passion. Your passion was physics.
Right.
Go run a nuclear reactor.
Or go
Leave
take
us
an
alone.
acting class instead of looking for an agent is what I would say. Like, why don't you go take an acting class right now and see if you really do like acting? Maybe you don't know if you love acting if you've never really done it in a class. You know what I mean? Like let's go see. You might not like it after you go in class for a few weeks. Maybe come back and say, oh yeah, no, I don't like what this really is now that I found out what you have to do. You know?
Right. And so that's what we look for. And that's what I run into. I mean, that's what people are. That's the kind of people we'll look for. It's the ones that are passionate. And they've been doing it for as long as they can remember. You know, they started acting at 6 or 8 or 10 on the stage. And that, you know, they went and took acting classes, whether or not they took official ones. We just want to see the passion. We prefer that they go through and get a BFA or an MFA, and then they're really good at that point. And we do get invited to those showcases that get advertised from different acting schools. And we do show up at some of them. And so, you know, especially the bigger ones, you know, get yourself into like Stella Adler or someplace like that. They're, you know, you find really good ones.
And when you're invited to the college program showcases or these kind of showcases, is there some degree of you being like, and you're going to need to tell me who your transgender clients are, who your non-binary students are, because you're specifically seeking in that area? Or how does that break down for you? How does that conversation go?
Well, like an agent or a casting director, they're not actually allowed legally to tell you that. And so, in fact, they can't even ask the students that. So what, I usually do is contact the person running it and say, are you going to have any transgender or non-binary actors in your showcase? Yes or no? That's all I need to know.
Got it.
And they can answer that.
Right. Okay.
You know, they'll say, to the best of my knowledge, yes, or to the best of my knowledge, no.
Got it.
And that way I know whether it's a waste of time or not to go.
Got it. That makes good sense. So tell me, in all the work that you've done with all the actors you've worked with, what have the actors taught you? What has it taught you?
Patience. Lots of patience.
Yeah.
And then and they've taught me that, well, actors are actors. And they know how to put on a show. And so you gotta like take things they say and do with a grain of salt sometimes.
Yeah, tell me what are the things that come up all the time? You have to be like, no, you're blowing something out of proportion, or what are the stories you are kind of hearing? We're pretty honest on this podcast. It's okay. You can go there. I'll take care of everybody.
Well, I don't know. I think the ones that stick in my mind are the ones that get sexually assaulted. They get sexually assaulted by people, and it's less now than it was pre-Me Too movement. But it was horrific before then. The stories I've heard have been absolutely atrocious about various major industry people, most of whom have never been prosecuted for it, and they're still there. And it's mainly because they look at trans people as being subhuman, and it's okay to bother us, that we're desperate for work. They can approach us and get away with it. Not on my watch.
Yeah.
These are stories that came from people who predated me starting the company or predated coming on board with me. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, right. You know, if I don't care if it's a CEO of a major network or a studio, if I hear of them sexually assaulting any of my people, I'm after them like there's no tomorrow. I don't care if it ruins the whole company. Yeah. They need to be taken down. They don't deserve their job anymore because they've crossed that line from professionalism into literally being a predator.
Predator, yeah.
And they shouldn't be running. Shouldn't be running a studio or anything. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am on it. I haven't had to do that yet. Come this close to it though.
I'm glad you haven't had to. I'm sorry you came close, and you know it's wild to have to hear that be said. And I am sorry that has to be something that we have to, you know, think about. And it also is like not a lot of agents no agent who's ever come on to this podcast or that I've spoken to before has said that out loud. And it makes some perverse sense that you're the one who's sharing it with me. That is something you have to watch for, think about, you know? So one of the things that I saw, Anne, is you have some great resources on your website at transgendertalent.com. Some beautiful resources about how to self-tape and everything. But I'm sure there's other people who are listening who will want to follow along in your journey. Where's the best place for them to see what's going on with Transgender Talent and with you?
I've been hiding most everything. Literally, you have the website. You can see stuff there. I update it periodically. We have a YouTube channel where I put my educational videos, and they're broken down for actors or for business people or for casting directors. Then we have music. We have a music professional. The only transgender professional music choir that I'm aware of in North America is called Key Change Ensemble. We have a website for that, and we have demo videos of some of the songs we've done on the YouTube channel for that. And we have social media on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter.
And we'll link to all of the places that you just said in the show notes. So if anybody is wanting to learn more, you'll have places to click on to learn a little bit more. And I want to thank you for today's conversation for so many reasons. One is that we got to go in a lot of different directions, which is not the way we always get to go. And that has a real testament to your willingness to just be open about your approach to not just the business, but I think all of life, which is what I think you really shared today. And what you want to see for this country, what you want to see for transgender people, for non-binary people, and this business, which is a wild and woolly. As I say, the industry is fickle. It is confusing. You learn something, then you have to forget it the next day. And I just appreciate your bringing to the forefront in this conversation, like some things that you've learned that like, this has worked. This has worked. You know, you need a reel. You need this, like these pieces. I know a lot of people will be grateful for hearing that advice today. So thank you so much.